Hey everybody. This is a unregularly scheduled show. This is a normal isn't a normal episode. I guess it's a special episode. Um, I wanted to personally, I guess, kind of jump on here and give my thoughts about the recent news of the cancellation of Star Trek Starfleet Academy. And you know, as the title suggests, give some of the implications, but come at this from a personal standpoint and try not to have this be as rant filled as I could possibly make it. Because I've seen plenty of, as my co-host says, hot takes and and emotional fueled rants, either actually more so against the show. Um, just to report, here's the journalistic side of me. Yesterday, it was announced initially in Variety at Variety.com, as it says exclusive, that Star Trek Starfleet Academy will end with season two. And I know people will say like, well, at least we got two seasons. And that's a good thing, especially in today's day and age, at least entertainment landscape. The cool thing about the series is that before the first season had been, completed as far as production, a second season had already been announced. The question was always if and when the future seasons, if they would get future seasons, and more it looks like, as of today or as of yesterday, it's not going to be the case. Some people will say that the show was canceled due to ratings issues, which is strange to me because it's not a Nielsen rated show, it's a streaming series. Others will argue that the show suffered as a result of the recent mergers that Paramount has gone through, be it the Skydance merger or buyout, or the recent Warner Brothers buyout. So there were shows that were going to be on the cutting block. That could be the case also. The last option, I guess, or the route to take would be a certain segment of fandom hated the show so much that it was canceled. So, go with whatever argument you want. The last argument is that the company is now headed by a political regime that is slowly but surely destroying anything that is quote unquote DEI or woke or anything that goes against the current administration that we have. So there are a lot of different angles that you can come at for why the show will not proceed after the second season. The thing that I want to say as a Star Trek fan is that first and foremost, I love the show. I love the series. I enjoyed it for a variety of reasons. And I think that Starfleet Academy, over its 10 episodes, was probably the best first season of a Star Trek show that I've seen in a while. And that is, for me, overtaking even something like Deep Space Nine. It is a show that out of the gate, and as many shows nowadays, this happens to, it was broken down or shackled or whatever you want to say from the jump, because it reflected the world in which we live. So just like any of the Trek series before attempted to do the same, this show was young, it was diverse, it was queer, it was gay, it was Black, it was brown, it was Asian, it was everything, and very reflective of the future that I feel that Gene Roddenberry has always striven to display or show. And it was also a world filled with hope, which I feel is something that we could do with a lot nowadays. And it was also, socially relevant, and it was just well written, well directed, and it brought like a spark of life to the Star Trek franchise. My biggest argument for, at least like the argument point or discussion point for today, is I need the franchise to grow. I really need this franchise to grow and bring in a new fandom, a new crop of Star Trek or Trekkies or Trekkers, and Starfleet Academy was doing that. There are other shows that have done that. Star Trek Prodigy. There's even a kids show on YouTube, which the name of it escapes me. But the only way that I'll say this in rants to friends, and they've heard me say this before. But the only way that this franchise is going to grow is if you continue to bring in new viewers, new just fans of Star Trek. And I think Starfleet Academy was doing that across the board, while continuing to tackle social issues, like as I mentioned, show more of an inclusive future, and just bringing us an era of hope, while giving existing fans proper shout outs to series that had come before without becoming just a huge nostalgia fest. Um, I love Star Trek. I mean, Star Trek is my favorite fandom. It's just been a property that has stuck with me, and it's probably because of my love of space opera. But the other part of it is that as we have World War III knocking on our front door, is that Star Trek represented for me a world in which, after we had screwed up on so many fronts as we are doing right now, is we decided to do something better. And that's what Trek has always been. And it's something that I feel that we need. So when you have a show like Starfleet Academy, and I know people will sit back and say these are first world problems, you're talking about a TV show that was canceled. I feel that with where we are at culturally, shows like this are needed, to show that we all collectively can do better, and create a better world. So whatever constructive criticisms that people might have had with the series, that's never been a problem. But for me, it's just, you don't have to like everything, but we live in a culture where it is entertaining to destroy rather than try to build up. And you don't have to like everything. That I would not expect that of people, but for a variety of reasons, this new era of Trek has been completely, constantly, not completely, but constantly just hated. And we know why. There are a variety of reasons, but I think that this is yet another victim of a part of fandom that will always want to see Trek in a certain way, with Bones, Spock, and Kirk. And no hate against those characters, but I think when you go against that grain, which is strange to me because the original Trek was the original woke show. So when you go, so when people see the current Trek is going against the grain, they just destroy it. From the higher upper reaches of the current White House to the nastiest troll, in the basement. I don't like that. I don't like that this show once again came out of the gate with such baggage, which is not fair. And I think that Trek has lost something huge with the cancellation of a show that could have been done for the next generation, hopeful generation of Trek fans. So that that's kind of where I'm at with it. I don't normally ask for time to speak about a TV show, just like, to set aside, I don't know, maybe like 15, 20 minutes. But this show is special, and definitely celebrated with the second season that's coming out. But I feel that whoever made the decision, or for whatever reason, is missing out on one of the best additions to the franchise that would have helped the franchise to grow. And I know that there are plans, as a tie-in to the title of the show, there are plans to, by the Ellisons who have purchased Paramount and the IP of Star Trek, to, do great things with Trek. But I think if you're coming out of the gate making a decision to cancel something as great as the show was, then I have concerns. But also politically speaking, and with the direction that the Ellisons have taken, specifically with CBS News and shutting down on free speech and anything that is opposing, that is opposite of their current agenda, it doesn't give me much hope for Trek, for the Trek that we have all grown to love um, and cherish. So, for those of us who like Trek. So I don't know what the future says. As I told friends that after the season of Strange New Worlds and the last season for that and the last season for Starfleet Academy, I'll probably cancel, my Paramount Plus, um, which also hurts because like my second favorite fandom is Avatar, and there's a new push for content on that front, and it makes me concerned about the future of that series, of that franchise too. So all that to say that I feel that the fandom, the Star Trek fandom, or the loudest part of it that apparently hated the show, um, if you had a hand in this, you destroyed something that was pure, that was beautiful, and that was the best of Trek and science fiction, and also, like I said, brought in a new generation so that would have helped to grow this franchise. So I don't know what more to say than that. Um, I will continue to support Trek, and reading the novels, the comic books, rewatching, the old stuff. I need to start building up my digital catalog, or maybe Blu-rays or DVDs. Um, but yeah, it's I'm kind of in a weird place with the fandom, at least on TV, the fandom or the franchise that I love. I love more than any other franchise. And this, I'm a comic book head going way back, but Trek has always been it for me. So shout out to the cast, the crew, all y'all who I know nobody's watching this, but I personally want to say thank you for giving us 2 seasons of, I think, one of the best representations of Gene Roddenberry's dream that has, been on the small screen. So thank you for that. And I just wish the best for my franchise. But I don't know where we go from here. So that was that. Please don't leave any nasty comments. If you want to discuss this, that's cool. But those are my 2 cents on it. And like, I see a lot of people putting out think pieces. And I respect the ones that have come at it from an analytical and decent perspective, even if the opinions are different than mine. And you can go watch that, but these are my thoughts on it. So check out Starfleet Academy. And I thank y'all for checking this out, either live or later on. And stay tuned for future episodes to be announced, and on YouTube and wherever you can watch these live streams. So thank you.